Welcome, guys, to another episode of Consciously Curious, where we deep dive with those that are thriving in their passion. Our next guest is a graphic designer by trade. You are an adjunct professor at Depaul, and you are, dare I say, the king of side projects.
Oh, wow.
We're going
What
to
a
talk a
title.
lot.
What a title.
Or not just like, dreaming of side projects, but the execution. You've executed a lot and really well.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate
Francis
that.
Almeda.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
It's been a long
Thank
time
you.
coming.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been a long time coming. I just want to say I'm truly honored to be on here and for you to even want to chat with me. So
Come on.
it'll be cool. It'll be fun, I hope, for you and for you guys listening out there. Yeah.
Can you take it back? Let's take it back to pre-graphic design.
Ooh, yeah, sure.
You probably discovered you had an artsy side,
I did. Okay, how far do we go back?
right? Like,
Right?
what led you towards that type of artsy?
I think the first thing that I drew, or at least the first thing that I remember drawing, are Ninja Turtles.
Dope.
That's my thing. That was
Dope.
my thing. I drew tons of Ninja Turtles. Me and my best friend Brian Rodriguez. That's how we would draw. So and after that, I think I just kind of. And this is talking about grade school, not me drawing Ninja Turtles in high school, by the way. But
So cool.
yeah, still cool, which is awesome. But I think I was actually known, I think, as the class artist. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
as if there was any art competition, I think people already knew
Cool.
who was going to win that
Francis.
thing. Yeah, here he goes. But yeah, I think that's when I kind of discovered that I had like a artsy side just from drawing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And when did you take it into into the computer?
The computer. Yeah, that's I think when did I think it just when I went to DePaul
Okay.
for college, and I think it was around that age when you're getting into a university, you're trying to figure stuff out, like what am I going to do with my life, and for me, I knew it was and it wasn't even an artsy thing. I think it was it's just computers. I think my parents were like, get into something with computers,
And so
whatever the hell
this
that
was your
meant.
compromise?
So I actually went to DePaul for computer science.
Yeah.
And that lasted maybe 2 years. Yeah, I struggled with that big time. Even though I do enjoy that part, or that way of thinking in regards to like development and computer science.
Very analytical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just wasn't who I was.
Sure.
And then eventually I found out that there was something called computer graphics in animation. That's what it was
Oh.
called. The program was called at DePaul. So I talked to my counselor, switched up my major like mid-sophomore year. And from that point on, I think I just started playing around with different softwares on the computer, whether it was Illustrator. I got bootleg copies of
Photoshop. Of course, yeah.
I do remember when I dormed at DePaul, so one person on the same floor, he had some bootleg copies, and to this day I do owe a lot of my like design
Thanks, Adobe.
initiation from him,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, and he's wonderful. He's talented, but yeah, I do remember getting my first bootleg copy from Photoshop, of Photoshop from him, and from that point on, I just started kind of learning new things, from designing to animating and
Wow.
just creating things digitally through the computer. Yeah,
And so that was on your free time, or are you taking classes as well for?
a little bit of both. A little
Okay.
bit of both.
Okay.
Free time, it was learning, because at that time, and thank you for introducing me as an adjunct professor. But at that time at DePaul, we didn't have these like Illustrator workshop or Photoshop workshop classes. They didn't
Yeah.
teach us the software. It was up to us to learn,
That's insane.
which I think is, I mean, it is insane now that I'm thinking about it, because I think there's a lot of students who are.
There's a huge
I'm
learning
and I
curve.
tell my students right now, you're spoiled, man. Like that Photoshop and Illustrator comes with your tuition. First of all, you're
Oh,
not
wow.
bootlegging something that gives you viruses on your computer, which is good. And now they're actually teaching you the software. Like
Yeah.
you're taking the time out of your week to learn it. But we just learned it on our own. So that's my like on the side thing, learning the software on the side,
Sure.
and then eventually working on the projects and classes, which is cool because you start to realize like just because you know Photoshop or Illustrator, that doesn't define you, or that's not what makes you a designer, right? What makes you a designer is being able to create something for whatever you're creating for, whether that's a client or yeah, whatever the solution you're trying to get to.
The software is just the vessel to do so.
Exactly. It's just a tool. It's just a tool. And what you're working with is your brain to come up with something that didn't exist before.
Ooh.
And that's a real designer. And you know, I think it's easy to call yourself a designer just because you know Illustrator or Photoshop, but that's not how I go about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. At what point did you, at this like sophomore year, were you thinking about careers at all?
No, I don't think so. But I will say, like, for me, switching up to computer graphics and animation, even though, which by the way isn't really graphic design, it was like 3D. Like I should be making Shrek or something, but
Wow.
I didn't, and I graduated with a 3D animation degree, and I don't do any of that right now. But it did. You know, I was on that path of making things digitally on the computer. And I wasn't really thinking of a career path, but when I did graduate from Depaul, as a graphic designer, you need a portfolio to get a job, right? And I didn't have that. So I think you could, I was actually thinking about this last night, like where did like this whole entrepreneurship type of thinking start? And I think it started then, like when I graduated, I had to make my own portfolio somehow because I didn't take classes to do that, which students have classes now to build a portfolio.
Them.
Yeah, I know. Lucky them. But what I did was found random clients on Craigslist, and like I think the first project was a martial arts studio needed a logo. So I hit them up. I told them I would do it for free.
Yeah.
Designed that logo. Found other people who needed websites, found other people who needed business cards or brochures or posters, whatever. I basically designed for free so I could build a portfolio that way, just through Craigslist. So that was like a good year or two after college, after graduating with a 3D animation degree, and eventually building a graphic design portfolio.
Were you living at home, or did you have to produce an income at the same time?
Oh, I lived after college. I think I lived in Wrigleyville for a little bit.
Wow, really?
Yeah, totally.
How did that happen?
Who knows? You know, party. But then I did I before Wrigleyville, I did move back home for a little bit, and I worked at you might know this place, Urban Outfitters, for a good couple months, because that's what you do after college with a DePaul degree. But no, I was really just working, part-time jobs to make some sort of income and feel productive. But and maybe some of those design jobs did offer some money, but not a lot.
Sure.
At that point, I didn't even know how to price myself
What
out.
do you think was the tipping point to where your first paid design job?
Oh, the first tipping point. It was actually for a buddy of mine. His mom owned and I could remember this because his mom owned a flag printing business, and they needed a new website. And I designed and built that entire website. And with that money, at that time, I think I charged, I don't know, maybe like $3,000 or something like that.
So, and what was the benchmark to set that price point?
Oh, we were going to Europe, and I needed money.
So
yeah, totally. And that same friend, his mom, I was like, well, this is how much we were going to be out there for a month. I'm like, this is a pretty good amount of money. That's how much I'm going to charge. And that's what I charged. Yeah. And took that money, went to Europe for my second time around.
Looking back, do you think that was a fair price?
Oh, at that, I think it was a fair price. Yeah, I'm just surprised that she said yeah, because you still get off, and that was a long time ago. But I bet nowadays,
I currently struggle with that. With how much do you charge for a creative service? And I guess you kind of set like what you'd want your hourly rate to be as far as like spending time with the client, and then how much time do you spend on the actual project at home?
Yeah, exactly. And even that, it's like, what are you going to count all your hours? It gets to be a bit of a struggle. And then even you finding out that number, like how much your hourly rate is.
Yeah.
That to me was dictated through a lot of freelancing. You know, I think my first freelance gig was through a creative recruiter. So they got to name the price. And I didn't even know how creative recruiters work. And I
Is
don't
this
know if you
like
do too.
99 Designs or like
I think it was like Creative Circle or
something
some shit
like
that.
similar where people come to you and
Yeah.
is it like a competition and like you design something but you won't get paid on?
Oh, no, no, no.
Oh, okay.
This is actually like they house a bunch of designers or creatives,
Yeah, yeah.
and then they do. It's like having
They find
an agent. They do the hard work,
the business
of,
for you,
exactly.
and you just design.
And so what happens is, let's say they charge an agency $50 an hour. They're gonna take half of that, and then you get the other half. But I didn't know that, you know.
Yeah.
It sounds bad now, but as someone who's like at that age after college, and someone tells you you're making 25 an hour, I'm like, sign me up. Let's do it again.
Especially when you're probably trying to build a portfolio.
Exactly.
Right.
But the building the portfolio phase, that was, you know, that was all like for free, just so I could get my foot in the door and start talking to people. My first agency gig, because I was in advertising and marketing for oh my God, I don't know, like 16 years.
What?
Yeah, it's been a long. That was my life for a long time. So once I got my foot in the door at one agency, which was called Draft FCB, that opened the doors to all the agencies in Chicago. So as a freelancer, I never hopped on full time until, I'm sure we'll get into it, until one last agency. But I hopped from agency to agency, and that's how I got my name out as a designer. And at that first gig, Draft FCB, I remember the first assignment I ever had was to design a website for, you know, at post offices, they have those machines where you could buy stamps.
Sure.
You could drop off your packages.
Yeah.
Those just came out that year.
Okay.
So they needed a website for it. So I not only, and that at that point, I didn't really know what that meant. To me, when you tell me that I had to design something, that meant that I had to build the entire thing. But really, you just design it, then you pass it on to a developer. They develop it, and then it goes through that process. But they gave me the project. I illustrated the entire thing, like drew the machine, drew little icons. At that time, Flash was cool, so I was making things move around. So I built the entire website, and I think the people there, they were like, who is this kid? Let's get him hired.
Okay.
So they definitely tried to get me on board full time, but at that point I was like,
right. I was
going
to ask how easy
Yeah.
it was to make a name when you're kind of hidden behind an agency. But if you're if the work speaks for itself, they're gonna really want to find out who did that.
Exactly. So that did it for that agency. And then you start to meet other people in the industry or other freelancers, and when they move on to someplace else, they just start referring, you know, freelancers that they recommend, and so it helped being a nice person, you know, and
that goes a very long way.
It does go a long way, so that helped me out quite a bit, and I was able to hop around from agency to agency, and then landed at this place called at Energy BBDO.
Okay.
They're an agency downtown, and I freelanced for them for a long time, like a good year or two, and they asked me to go full time, and I said no so many times just because I was hooked on this like freelance life. I just felt free, you know, and be able to take on projects that I wanted to.
Right.
But the people that worked there, I truly admired. I think, and if we even think about this shop side project, my true side projects, I think, started from that agency.
Okay.
And the people that work there, and the creative director at the time, Kevin Lynch, he's an incredible leader. So I learned a lot from him, and then my team that I worked with there, they were all about kind of starting things on the side. And the one thing that this agency did was, if you had, they always set aside this like once or twice a year, anyone from the agency can bring in an idea that they wanted to bring to reality. So you get to pitch in front of the agency, and it would be like this side thing. And I remember, I think the first side project the agency kind of was like, all right, we're down, let's do that, was called, I think Twitter was big at that time, and I think the site was called Where Is God Now? And what that did was it would scrape Twitter for people who said thank God, like thank God for my coffee today, or like, oh, thank God that I got the bus, you know. And we created all these little graphics because there would be real time, you know,
Just a feed for
just a
where God
feed.
is.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
amazing.
exactly. And then you'd see a little lightning bolt on the map on where God hit last, like. So that was the first side project. I didn't pitch that. Another team did, a super talented team, but they brought me on as an illustrator to help design the website. So I think at that point on, a lot of people...
It planted the seed.
It planted the seed, not just for me, but for... I started to become known as this person. If you had something on the side going on, they would mention it to me, asking for some kind of help or just my opinion on it. So I became like this...
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I've been thinking about this. I think a part of it then was
is it the positivity, the optimism, the encouragement?
The good looks, maybe.
Good looks?
I don't even know. I don't. I think it was my skill set. As I mentioned, you know, I had an animation degree, but I wasn't animating. I could design. I had some computer science, even though I didn't, graduated with it. I just had this. I could wear a lot of hats is what I was doing. So anything to get the project done, I was willing to do. And I think that's what I think, maybe mainly the good looks, but
the willingness to go above and beyond.
Exactly. And make things happen and get it done, you know, and executing. And I think, that's why.
That's very interesting. It planted the seed. It didn't stem from a place of like negativity. Like you didn't all of a sudden find out like the agency's making this much off of me. Like, and you wanted to do your own thing. It was mainly, what was the sense of fulfillment as a designer at that time, working for an agency? Like what was the main motivation to really like carve out your own way?
My mindset in regards to design has changed throughout these years, and at least at that point, I just wanted to keep designing and making things. That was and even till this day, I could say that just to make things is what makes me happy. So I think at that point, being able to work on cool projects was my main goal, and maybe and just keep on. As momentum would build, maybe I'd score bigger clients or something like that. But at that point, it's really just like producing a body of work that I was proud of. And I think at that point, if you were to ask me like what my goal was, it would probably be to be the best designer. You know, not in the world, but someone who is known to be a great designer. And whether I made it there or not, I do think that. I put in the work, but I think if you were to ask that same question to me now, like even your introduction, because people ask me now, like, what do you do, or what do you do, you know? And I have a hard time saying design now. I'm not. I don't even know if I would label myself that, even though I still do design as a job. There's just so many other things that I do now that a graphic designer doesn't really doesn't fit me anymore. Yeah, which is interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Yeah. But you're evolving.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a metamorphosis.
Yeah, it is. Anywho, I lost track of thought on the timeline of
what's
things.
the next step? I mean, how far later on was Reppins?
Reppin was that was pretty far.
So we're missing things between.
There's cool. Let's see. Well, let's take it. So agency life. I did that. Where's God side project. Another fun side project at that agency. One more that I'd like to take note of is my creative director John Linder and a writer on our team Natalie, who are all still killing it in advertising. They had this side project helping out the Children's Museum. There was a new exhibit all about cardboard. They came to the agency with no money.
It was a shop
for
toys.
It was.
out of
Yeah.
cardboard.
Dude, that was it. That was
That's insane.
one of my favorite side projects, if not, yeah, I don't. One of my favorite projects of all time was that project, and we did it for no money, or the agency didn't do it for any money, and we did it on top of everything else we were doing on the agency.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
So there is a sense of like giving back and philanthropy at the agency.
In that case, yes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. And I
okay.
think that's probably why I enjoyed it even more. That specific project.
But
that is.
yeah, I guess even when it's not giving back, but it's like the opportunity to give a platform to those to do your own project, I guess.
Exactly.
That's cool too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Which was, and that's what my team had. You know, there was Natalie, there was Kelly, Amanda, Nate. I remember we would just sit there and think of different ideas, like idea generation. That was our thing. Whether we were a designer or a writer, our thing was coming up with ideas. So we were always like thinking up of new things that we could maybe start on the side.
Mhm.
And that's just who we were, just because we were led by someone who his name is Kevin. I mentioned it before, but his thing was also coming up with ideas and doing side projects. So and that's where I really think this whole thing of like always having to do something on the side really started. Anywho, so that happened. Agency life, side projects there, and then my wife and I moved to San Francisco for a little bit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we moved out there. We weren't married at that point, but we were both born and raised in Chicago, and we wanted to step out of our comfort zone, and we moved to San Francisco. We've always loved the town, and as a graphic designer, I could try to find something there. Sorry, pizza, and then an agency hired me and was willing to move us out there, so they moved us out there, and long story short, I didn't have a good time at that agency, so I went back on freelance, and eventually landed a freelance gig at Google. So I designed there for the rest of our time there, and was able to trick them to let me freelance from here. So we moved back here, and my wife and I got married. Actually, this is no longer. I'm just telling my life story now. So I'm sure this is what you wanted on the podcast, but got back here.
What wasn't appealing about SF?
Oh, SF. Oh, we loved SF. Don't get
Oh.
me wrong. But what wasn't appealing? Oh, it's the cost of things. Oh my God, dude, super expensive, and there was just no way that we were going to.
You're either filthy rich there,
Yeah,
or you're not.
exactly.
Or you're like at the bottom.
And someone who's freelancing at Google, what else do I have to do to kind of survive?
And you were struggling then.
Yeah, or not struggling, but it's like we're not going to have a family or start a future here. So it's like, and this has been home. There was always this kind of sense that we were going to move home one day. And 2015, we moved back home, got married here, and we've been here ever since. And I think 2015 or I think 16 that's when Reppin finally started. And
So yeah, tell me, like, why enamel pins?
Why enamel pins? That's a good question. I think it was,
like I see it from the designer aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
And to make something tangible is very cool, and something that people could wear with pride.
Yeah, that's all that brand is. Thank you for saying those beautiful words. But Reppin, I think at that year, 2016, I really wanted to launch something that I could call my own. At that point, I've designed for so many places that, like, I'm done designing for other people. I want to design something for myself. And illustrating these little pins that I have so beautifully art directed behind me was really easy for me. You know, I could knock these out, no problem. I could design whatever I want. So at that time, I think my family was wearing some pins on their hats and on their bags, but it wasn't a big thing, you know. And I think that has
Your pins, the pins that you made, or just pins in general.
Pins in general.
Pins in general, yeah.
Yeah. There's
a cult of like pin wearers. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And little did I know that we would be a part of that wave. You know, there's something that you can't learn as someone who launches things or an entrepreneur. It's just like the timing is. I don't know what happened, but from that point on, pins, not only Reppin, but a bunch of other pin makers started popping up, and you started seeing them at Urban Outfitters. so it just became this big thing. So we just rode the wave for as long as we
Yeah.
can. But I just wanted to launch something, and I was listening to a lot of podcasts on what kind of like, basically I wanted to start something e-commerce, and I learned that or a majority of the successful e-commerce businesses, couple factors made them successful. It's one, being able to they should be small so you could ship them
Okay.
easily,
Yeah.
and at a good price. Be able to manufacture them at a really good price, at a cheap price, and being able to price it up higher than what you, and pins was it just hit all these
Wow.
like different check boxes for a good e-commerce business. So it just took off. Reppin took off more than I could. It was something that just allowed me to kind of take my mind off of my like day work. Had turned into
So
something
what,
that-
slowly
Yeah.
your days were filled with Reppin instead of like the design work,
yeah
the agency work?
I think I'm really I like to take pride on how I manage my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I get up pretty early, and I get a lot of work done then, and then I focus a lot of the time, the rest of the time, on repping. So it's never like
You're never distracted.
yeah, exactly. I never felt like I was giving one more love than the other, is what I'm trying to say.
But like,
Yeah.
did you feel a pull towards one side, like a gravity towards one side rather than the other? Like this is like,
Yeah.
when it's ready, when I'm ready, I'm gonna leave one of these things.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think even with this coffee shop, I don't know if my goal is I don't know if
It's
I'm
very
ever gonna
interesting
say-
because
go ahead.
I'm sure a lot of these people that you've held this, you've been the host to a lot of these side projects. I'm sure a lot of them have the aspiration of their side project becoming a full-time gig.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. I do think that that's like the end goal, but that I don't kind of like. I don't like using that as the end goal for some reason for my side projects. I kind of like just having it there for the happiness and like being able to focus on
You
something
truly
else.
enjoy the process.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just
That's
like
the
it
hardest
makes me
part for a lot of
makes me
people.
happy. Makes me happy. It takes my mind off of like designing things that I don't want to be designing, and it's teaching me things. It's teaching me business. I'm not going to business school, so, and I'm not spending the money to go to business school, but I have,
I wrestle with that too. I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I going to school?
Yeah,
Like, just for
you
these
totally-
letters? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, man. Hey, man, but you're almost done. So that's you're almost there. So don't stop thinking those thoughts.
And you mentioned that the pins were in Urban.
Yeah.
Was that due to your previous experience with Urban?
So my pins were never at Urban.
Oh.
They just started carrying enamel pins. They
Oh.
kind of dictate. I don't think they dictate, but
The culture,
when it's
just the
there,
pin
it's
culture.
like, oh my god. Well, now it's a thing, I guess. You know
Like,
what I mean?
pins are a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think was it that set Reppins on the off? What did it set it off?
What did it set it off? I think Reppin as a brand, it's the tagline for it is rep what you love, right? So that kind of opens it up to, it could be really anything.
Yeah.
Where as I think, and I'm not trying to put down other pin makers, but there tends to be like, I only make these certain kinds of pins, or like I only make Ninja Turtle pins, or I only make like cutesy little things.
Really? Like, you're really pigeonholing yourself.
Yeah, which
there.
is fine, man,
Yeah.
and that's probably because they like those things. All right.
But it's a business at the end
It
of
is.
the day.
But again, like for me, I think also a part of someone like me starting repping, I just like a lot of things.
Well,
you
that
know?
and I think you're also just curious about other people's passions and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
and to be able to facilitate their passion into something that's tangible and wearable
Yep.
is huge. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that something so small could mean so much to someone. You know,
Yeah.
that it would be cool to be at Renegade fairs and they would pass by and they would see like, I don't know, what a cup of coffee, and they're like, they would either love coffee, everyone loves coffee, or they'd know someone who loves coffee, and it would be an easy gift. It's $10.
Yeah.
That's an easy spend. That was another factor. It's like there comes a point, like a certain number that you're like, I'm not going to spend that much, but $10 is right there. It's like, here you go.
It's very interesting because
Yeah.
like stickers, I'm sure are simple, but like people just give away stickers, and you can't really like people would pay for a pin.
Yeah, exactly. But when did it take off? I don't really know, but it just became this
Like was it word of mouth? Was it
Yeah.
building ads? Like what was it? Or was it also like getting new clients to make their own pins?
I think it was a little bit of both. When I first started repping, I started reaching out to different artists around the city. I am a hands talker, by the way. And then, so I think I reached out to different street artists and tried to get them to collaborate with me on making a pin. So I think that really helped a lot. I didn't have like this filter of who I really wanted to work with. It was like, hey, you want to make a pin together? Let's make a pin together. And that helped get the word of mouth out. And I do think that it was a big deal, but I never put up ads. I showed up at every show.
What do you mean every show?
Like Renegade Craft Fair. Have you been to one
I
of those
haven't been
shows?
to that.
But
I've been, like the neighborhood fest in Chicago.
Exactly.
things
Yeah,
like
but
that.
these were made for like
local
the
like,
makers.
okay.
Like you'd go from booth to booth, and you're like, you get kind of if you've never been there, and then you go, you do get inspired. Like, damn,
Where
look at
is
all
it?
these. They have them all over Chicago now,
Oh.
but I went to the one in Wicker Park for the first time, but now they're in Pilsen. They're
wow.
they're I mean, once things kind of get back to normal, you should definitely go to one.
Yeah.
I'd highly recommend it, and bring a credit card. But anywho, that actually sparked like me wanting to start something, seeing people kind of like have something on the side, being able to sit at a booth and sell what they're making. That's such a cool thing.
Absolutely.
So that inspired Reppins too. So I showed up to not only that fair, but every fair, art fair in Chicago. Not only in Chicago, and I went across the nation at different pin shows even, and really spread the word that way. And along the way, I got to meet like tons of makers who, some of them you see on this wall. I just started to create this sort of network of other like-minded people, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
You know, this was their side project, and we got to kind of like share our stories on what we're doing. And there was something nice about Reppin because we were, I'm just going to use this as an example, but say you had a candle company, right? I would walk up to your booth, kind of like talk about it with you, and then be like, hey, if you ever need a pin, let me know. I'll make your pin, or we can make a pin together. Huh. It was one of these, like, you couldn't do that with any other kind of like, product. It was
to share something.
Exactly. I was open to sharing it with them, and everyone wanted a pin. It's like you have a hot sauce brand. Yeah, I want to make a pin of a hot sauce, and I'm like, I'll make that for you.
Mike's Hot Honey Pin.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, that's a good idea. I do. So yeah, it's just, and I want to take the credit and feel like that's why I made this pin brand, but it's really just luck. It's just like this brand Reppin is just really opens itself up to collaboration and being able to help. Like I was just talking about this with you, but like even organizations who needed to raise money or any causes that wanted to bring awareness, a pin was such a good way to do that, at such a cheap price, and so that was the other side of the business. It was not only making our own pins that we thought was like, represented things that people love, but we also made pins for people, whatever you needed.
Very
so
cool.
when you need one for your podcast,
dude,
we're
really?
ready. Oh, see what happens. We're putting your face on a pin with like a mic on there. It'll be pretty awesome. But anywho, yeah, man, it's Reppin. It's been an awesome business. It's taken me all over the nation. It's the pins are really sold all over the world. I think they're in some shops in Japan or Europe. It's like,
really,
and I'm not even boasting. I'm just really surprised that that these things, and it's allowed me to like meet different people and artists that I respect even.
Right.
it's opened the doors for quite a bit, and the best part, I learned how to kind of start a business. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you run into like any legal issues, like barriers?
Yeah, yeah. I made Chance the Rapper hats.
Okay.
I'm sure he's going to be listening to your podcast, so you could call him out right here. So, but I made the 3 hats, right?
Yeah.
But the thing was, I made a black one and a red
As a
one.
pin.
As a pin.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was anyone who bought that pin, I would donate, because this is when he was giving money back to CPS.
Okay.
I would donate 100% of that money back to CPS too. So I just wanted Reppins' part of doing that.
Yeah.
Kind of giving back to Chicago Public Schools. And so we did that for a bit. But then a month or 2 later, I get an email saying like, hey, we're Chance the Rapper's lawyers. Can you please take down
Cease and
these
desist,
items?
yeah.
So they listed off those 2 hats. I'm like, well,
Nothing.
did you not read why I was making these? But
Oh.
I get it. It's his, icon, or that's what he's known for, and that's his thing. So that
That's
was
insane.
One,
I wonder if like he trademarked the number 3 on a hat. Like, is that
that's true.
is that even like what the heck?
Yeah, I know. And does he still wear?
Or the fact that it's implied that Chance the Rapper. That's
it's
insane.
crazy. But I think that was like the only. I'm sure there are other ones but I tend to kind of ignore those.
Here's
things.
the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we both have lightning bolts in our logos.
Yeah, I do.
Very
I know,
very
I just
similar
saw.
lightning bolts.
Yes.
And I ain't mad about it. And
Dude,
I
yeah.
think they have different meanings to it, but that's the thing. It's like just I guess when you get that big, but like they didn't read the whole fine print of like what
No.
you're doing with your with your pins.
No, and that's the.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. Oh, and to that point,
Imagine if Chance did get word, and then that just like what level you might be at.
oh, dude, I know, the top pin maker of the world.
It wasn't. I don't know if it was even him. We were talking about like the 86 list earlier, but his girlfriend like made a tweet about how good the food was at Nini's Deli, and after that whole debacle, it's just like they retracted all their statements. This was like, screw them, It's just like they dug their own grave.
They really did. They really did. It's messed up. Yeah. But I did have. This is not legal issues, but I did have some of my
Hurdles.
designs ripped off.
Ooh.
There was. I remember at a pin show, I think someone came up and on their jacket was this green tea pin. It's just a little mug with a little green tea
like packet
in there. Yeah, just floating. I'm like, hey, where'd you get that pin? And the thing is, my pins are super small. I just don't wear big pins. I only wear 1 pin at a time, but this was huge. And I'm like, where'd you get that pin? She's like, oh, I just got it off of some like I don't know, Amazon, Etsy-esque site.
Some Etsy, yeah.
So I'm like, fucking. I'm like, I have a pin. I think that's my design. And I showed her. She's like, that's the same one. And I go, let's trade. So I have this. I took this pin. I got to show you a picture because they're awful. They're just humongous. You could tell it was cheaply made. But there's 3. My entire, I call it the caffeine collection, the coffee, green tea, and latte. All of it was ripped off. And you could even, it's even on, I think it's on Alibaba right now. If you want to do a repping. I don't blame you. Go ahead. Go for it.
Wait, they even call it repping?
No, I wish
okay. Oh, what the heck?
I wish. Yeah. Pepin is what it's called. No. But it's, and for me, I think there's a lot of artists who obviously, and rightfully so, get mad at that kind of thing. But for me, I'm a little honored that I'm getting, that.
Look at you, you're so
man,
positive.
dude.
You're like,
look at that,
swerve,
man.
dude. Keep stealing,
please
whatever
keep
you want.
selling that, man. Hell yeah. I'm honored, man. It's to be imitated, But
flattered.
Flattered. Exactly. So that's repping. In a nutshell, I think we do have a studio down the street. I don't know if you actually knew that.
No.
I'm sharing a studio with my cousin Justin, who owns a brand called Coursework. So I really just needed a place for my inventory, but it's all there, and hopefully one day we get to set it up as like another retail appointment only retail space. But for now,
or another like creative space. I know a lot of photographer like people do that of like. If you need a space as a studio to shoot or whatever, or if you had like some like workstations that people can just like share ideas. I don't know. It could be something like that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
You
I
know?
think that's the goal too, because it's a nice and it's only because we don't have any furniture in there, but it does set up nicely for a
Okay.
photo studio, which is exactly what we're
Or
kind of
like
using it for now.
that, or like I was just saying, using as at the photographers as an example, but like a design studio, because I know you talked about kind
Yeah.
of setting up workshops
Yeah,
in the
ooh,
future
that's
too.
true.
You
That's
know,
true. Yeah, it could be anything. It could be a place to
just
hold your podcast. Let's just say, yeah, it's
damn it,
really a thing for it's for anything. I even for my staff here at Side Project, I kind of open it up to them because it's really just like a 3-minute walk. What and a lot of my staff are not. They're all in art school right now, so
Okay.
if they needed a space to kind of do their work or even just take their, I mean, right, everyone's in online classes right now, but just to use it for
Right.
whatever they want to use it for, they're more than happy to, which is pretty cool to have.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. What comes
yeah.
after? What comes
what
after?
comes after Reppin?
Reppins?
So Reppin goes on. So that was 2016, right?
I heard something about grounded socks.
Ooh, grounded socks.
Those
That's
are like
true.
medical grade socks.
Yeah, totally. They're really just those. That's still in the making. We actually just got some samples in the other week.
Okay.
But my cousin Alan and I are really into not only jujitsu but lifting, like powerlifting. We're just
Okay.
like, I have a gym in my garage.
makes a lot of
fortunately.
sense.
So the whole thing about like kind of just lifting in socks,
And feeling grounded at the same time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just a genius name, but yeah. And
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
these socks already
Yeah.
kind of like already exist, so we're just kind of taking something that already exists and branding it and making it our own. So we're still in the process of doing that, but that was maybe just a couple more. That's a more recent side project.
I watched a
Yeah.
YouTube video of a guy that made an e-commerce shop based off people can just submit photos of their dog and have it printed on socks,
Oh,
and he just sells that.
it's awesome.
It's custom. It's very personal,
Yeah,
and they're just like they're long socks, and you can have your dog's face on your sock.
Dude.
And
and that's it, man. That's what we're trying. See, what are we doing here? These are the ideas that we want to try to just kind of come up and make. And
he was just trying to be an example for how easy it is to set up an e-commerce shop.
yeah, awesome. I think that's great. I actually with Reppin, I was asked to go do a career day talk.
Someone in college
right?
is gonna break down Reppins one day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is fine. And then I was asked to do like a talk on career day, and my whole thing was like, hey, you could start an e-commerce business like tomorrow if you wanted to.
Got the cops and the firefighters
yeah,
in the room,
yeah,
the doctors and
yeah,
nurses.
Yeah. Start a pin business.
Don't go to school.
Yeah. But I didn't know that whole thing was all about starting a side project. Like you're all gonna be successful in what you want to do, but it doesn't hurt to kind of start something on the side. So. And starting an e-commerce business is something that's easily doable nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
and getting the word out with Instagram, like you could start anything right now, and kind of somewhat be successful or even feel like you've accomplished something. So, anywho, yeah, Reppin', man, what a business.
So yeah, with grounded socks, what was there anything between grounded socks and the cafe?
So those were all going at the same time. There was this
Jesus.
thing like this coffee shop. I signed the lease to this coffee shop. What month are we in now? September.
I know you talked about it in July.
Yeah. I
and
talked about it in
5
July.
months earlier, so February.
Yeah. Around March, I think, is
Okay.
when I actually signed the
Okay.
lease, and then, quarantine
Oh, yeah.
happened, and then that put a halt on everything, and which was, I think, a lot of people, their first comment is like, "What a bit, way to start a business during these times," But at that time, or at this, I've never worked at a cafe. I've never been a barista. I've never worked in coffee. I just had a passion in coffee, and have always known that I wanted to open a coffee shop one day. I think a lot of designers do, or creatives
Really?
do. Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
didn't
think
know
it's
that.
just a thing, like, because we do a lot of our work in coffee shops,
yeah.
in cafes. You're like, oh, it'd be cool one day to have one of these, as my own. And at that time, I wrapped up another design side project, um, which I think I'm okay to talk about. If not, oh well. We did. There's a new Raiders stadium
Okay.
in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and in their house they have concession stands and places to
Cool.
get food. I was tasked with designing all the logos for these, working with an agency, of course, to design these logos. So it was a
What?
huge side project. This is on top of me doing some other design gigs that I consider my full-time thing. But anyways, that project was wrapping up, so I had some money to kind of invest, to save up, and then I did what everyone does on a slow day at work. I Googled coffee shops for sale, and this place popped up.
And this was a coffee shop before?
This was a coffee shop. It was actually called City Coffee. Just a good coffee shop for the neighborhood, but they weren't even open for a year. I think they opened, and the old owner put in all the wonderful work and making it like zoned
right
correctly. He did all the hard work.
Wow.
So it was already a coffee shop, and it went up for sale. And at the same time, I was also taking a master class in negotiation.
Chris Voss.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. I'm a terrible negotiator, by
Never
the way.
split the difference.
Exactly.
Dude,
exactly.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I suck at negotiating. So I took this, and then I was just like, I saw the shop was for sale. And a month later, after with my newly learned skills and a nice paycheck, I have the keys to my first coffee shop.
Okay.
And here we are.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it was from the day job. It wasn't from profits from Reppin.
No. Reppin does its own thing. It's like
You don't really mix.
Nah, I don't really mix that. Like that's Reppin money is just there.
Self-supporting.
Yeah, it just kind of runs.
Interesting.
It just runs through, man. It just runs through, which is
Okay.
cool. And then every now and then, my wife and I can go take a nice dinner or something.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, no, this was just like, and then so I'm still actually designing a little bit for Google. And then I took on another side project, which was for the Raiders. And once that finished, I was like, well, let's put this money towards something
Okay.
to invest in something. And the shops, and that's where we're sitting in this location at this
That's
moment.
crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So
Crazy.
if
Go
you're
ahead.
willing to share, like, you're the sole investor? You're the, did like, because I'm going through that right now.
Yeah.
Of like, should I go to friends and family before I take out a business loan, like, and taking on like interest through that? And
Damn, I wish I would be the right person to give you that advice.
let's say your friends and family did invest.
Oh.
How would you try to pay them back with a return?
I wouldn't even know.
Okay.
And that's probably why I didn't do it. I don't like there's if there's something that I'm trying to still learn right now about myself is to learn to ask for help. I'm just not that kind of person. Like I just, when I want something done, I kind of just do it on my own.
Sure.
And not ask for help. And my wife gives me shit all the time for that. I just don't ask for help. So, but with the money part, it was, even then, I had some money from the project I just finished, but I still needed more, right? I still needed more.
Yeah.
So I did, I took out some money from, I got some money from some banks, from other mortgages and stuff, and trying to have that as a safety net. But being really mindful of how much I'm spending, because it was all the work was already done here.
Yeah.
I wasn't spending too much money. You know what I mean? Like, it was already a coffee shop. I was just going to change it aesthetically. Like, I changed the floors, repaint it. Thank you. And I did end up spending a lot more money than I intended, but at least it's right now at a place that I really feel confident in. But in terms of, I am the sole investor in this entire
So
thing.
at this point, is there a clear date that you'll start seeing an actual return?
That's a really nice business question that you asked me.
For yourself,
Absolutely not. I had no.
That's insane.
Am I the really?
Because I ask myself that all the time.
Dude, man, look, the quarantine happened.
Yeah, I know.
So that already kind of put things like there was already obstacles in a way. But at the same time, it was like I didn't have a set date to open anyways. Like I knew I still had work to do in here, and work to do in here, and work to do in my brain, because I'd never have worked in a fucking cafe. So I had to learn everything. So I had to learn, like I bought a ton of books, read, like learned listened to podcasts. And I actually got a Breville like espresso machine, because I'm when it comes to coffee, my approach is like I love black pour over coffee.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Making lattes, I don't know how to do that. I've never worked at an espresso machine. So I bought an at-home espresso machine, like a Breville one.
But
I don't know.
I'm sure any espresso machine is quite the investment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was used a lot of gift cards on that one. And then so we set it up in my basement, in our basement, and then my wife and I would practice, because at this time this shop was still being worked on. I've never worked on that machine, and we're being told that we have to stay at home, so we're staying at home. And I would just practice on the machine, like frothing milk and making lattes, and we would serve drinks from our because there would be a window right next to the machine in the basement, and we would just serve our friends and family who would come by.
Oh.
And that was during the quarantine. That's how we
And
how
you
we
got
learned.
feedback.
Yeah, got totally,
Good.
yeah. And in some cases, yeah, that's where side project coffee really started, through the basement window. I'll show you sometime, but it's crazy that we did that, you know. And that at that same time, so there was a lot of momentum. When I'm fucking juiced, I'm going now. So I got a cafe.
Right.
And what happens then is that the people around you start to get inspired too, to kind of start something, you know, like, and that's not my intention. It's just what happens. So now it's just like, everyone kind of has their ideas and what they want to start. So,
It wasn't it wasn't called side project at the time?
Oh, at that time, it took me, I don't know, when I got the keys to the shop, you're saying?
Yeah, well, I cut you off at the point where I had a feeling that this is where you got inspired to get the name, or like this is like, oh, so this is becoming more than a cafe. This is kind of like a vessel to provide inspiration for other people's potential side projects.
Yeah, I think because that was my whole thing, right? What is the concept of the shop? How am I different from any other coffee shop? And that was my whole thing. It's like one of the main reasons I wanted to open up a coffee shop. I think there's a lot of great shops in Chicago, but it almost starts to kind of feel like the same thing over and over again, just in a different aesthetic way, there's nothing wrong with that. I love coffee shops, but then it starts to get a little repetitive after a bit. So like, how am I going to set myself apart? So I started thinking about it, like, what am I going to do? And then I think I was just laying in bed with them, like, well, this is my side project. And everyone at that point during the quarantine had their own side projects, or at least trying to start something new. So it was like, there's a lot of sourdough side projects going on right now. Yeah, so it's just like, well, it's like kind of like a perfect timing for something like that to happen. And it's not like I'm inventing anything new. There's coffee shops that sell other people's art. I've never bought one of those $300 paintings, but it's just like, what if we took it a step further and, showcase other things rather than just paintings, like and I think along the way with Reppin, I've met so many makers that I'm like, well, now I already have the network. A lot of my family has been inspired or to start their own thing, so I have them already. And now I'm just going to create this hub that I could showcase everybody, not just myself. And I even had hesitancy showcasing Reppin. I just want to showcase other people, you know, like it's become, in my opinion, a bigger part of why I wanted to start a coffee shop. You know, initially,
did you even know that?
No, I had no idea.
That's insane. That's cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. And that's where like timing and luck, again, you can't teach those things, but it's just like, it just made sense, you know. It just made sense. I wish I could take credit for like saying like, yeah, I knew that this was going to be the perfect time to open this. I had no idea. It just all welded together, you know.
Did COVID instill any other fear in you? Because it just seemed like, in a way, with timing, it gave you time to prep.
Yeah. There was no. If anything, it helped relieve the pressure of like having to open up like the month after I got the keys or a week after. I could have, once I got the keys, I could have opened up the next day, to be honest, maybe just serve through the door or not let anyone in the shop. But it gave me time to take a step back, realize what the fuck am I doing, and then try to figure it out. And it gave me time to learn. It gave me time to learn. So, and I love that,
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned how hard it is for you to ask for help, but it seemed like Noel has been very impactful in the success of this shop.
Yeah. Noel was a big
with relying on other people's expertise.
Yes, absolutely. The nice thing about the coffee industry is that it wasn't. I was beginning to learn that it wasn't that big. That everyone really knew each other,
Okay.
and as long as you and I'm not boasting or anything. As long as you're just a nice person, people kind of gravitate towards that.
Right.
I think that from what I'm kind of learning, there's already kind of a lot of douchebags and dickheads in the industry. So like even being a nice cafe owner was already refreshing, I think, to people's eyes. So that
really,
helped a
I
lot.
didn't notice that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's just what I heard.
Typically, people go to like the mom and pop cafes because it's the mom and pop cafe.
Totally. Yeah. But apparently. Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. I'm not even gonna get there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, totally.
We're not bashing anyone,
Yeah,
but like,
no way.
I haven't, in my personal experience, haven't come across any D-bags in the coffee industry.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
I'm sure in any industry you'll find some type of elitism or condescension.
Exactly.
That's everywhere. That's
Totally.
That's unfortunate.
Totally. But at least the people that I've met, they were all, and I think there was a part of me that was open in telling them that I didn't know what I was doing. Like, hey, I want you to know this is my first cafe that I've ever opened. I have a passion for coffee, but I don't know what I'm doing. So when I want to become a partner with you or work with you, I'm going to kind of have to rely on you and ask really dumb questions just because I'm just going to ask those questions because this is my first time doing it.
Right.
And I think a lot of people kind of like were open to that and kind of embraced that. And I'm like, hey, he's just trying to do his thing. And from that point on, people were willing to not only give me their business, but step out of their way and help me and teach me along the way. And I owe it to not only Noel, but everyone that I've been working with as far as like the people who bring in these teas or my coffee partners or like even other cafe owners, they've all been super helpful and given me their point of view on things, and helping me learn throughout the way, which has been really nice. I've never. It's
not really competitive.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's because I never approached it that way. Like I think there are some cafe owners who might be competitive with each other. But for me, it was just like, hey, that's awesome that you own this cafe. I love this cafe. I'm opening up my own. I had some questions. If I could pick your brain, that'd be great. And maybe 80 or 90% of the time they'd be willing to talk. So those few months gave me a nice time or a good amount of time to learn.
I tell my students, show me either competence or commitment. So it's okay if you're not competent at the time, but show me a commitment to willing to learn.
Absolutely. 100%. I love that. It was just like, I didn't know much, but I was committed to learning, and that's where we're at. I was committed in making this happen. Because it was just a dream that didn't exist. And of course there were those fears of like, man, what are you doing? You've never done this before. But there was I think that just entrepreneurs have this weird kind of like cockiness that they can make it work. I don't know if it's cocky. That's not the right word.
It's
but
delusion.
Confidence. It's delusion.
It's delusion.
It's total delusion.
I didn't come up with that. My buddy Ryan came up with that. But it's just like, delusional confidence in yourself to do it.
Exactly. I don't know where that came from, but I was confident that I could. And listen, the worst thing that could happen was that this cafe failed, but at least I tried, and I probably would have learned something along the way, and then I could carry it on to my next side project. So it was just like, there wasn't this fear of failure of like, man, if this doesn't work out, I'm effed, but I was just in it to learn. And same with Reppin. I'm in it to learn about business. This is not the last side project. This is not the last business.
For those
you know?
listening, this cafe, although it's probably like full-time commitment, is still considered a side project.
Yes, it is. It is. It is what other people's full project is. I'm considering my side project. I think there's a part of me that is calling it a side project, so it doesn't feel like it's so much pressure on me, even though I do feel the pressure all the time.
I like that.
There's this nice thing. It's like, this is my thing on the side, even though like this is all I think about.
The word on the street, I think, is like you're known for ube products, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier, but you are also trying to always change things up and experiment.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on kind of being very niche?
I think
creating a space for yourself that people kind of like resonate with you, or that's what they think of when they hear side project coffee.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great question, because and we spoke about this. Our first weekend that we opened, I was talking to my wife and I. We were talking like what we were going to do this weekend, and we just kind of randomly thought about, let's make it an ube weekend. Everyone loves ube. We know a couple people.
For those that don't know, what is ube?
Oh, it's a purple yam from the Philippines that is if you see it in a dessert, Filipinos love it. It's become this thing, like people eat with their eyes first. So when they see this thing, it's purple, like a beautiful color in their food or drink that they're about to take. And then when they taste it, it's like a subtle sweetness to it, almost like a nutty flavor. But anytime you see ube in anything like a donut or a drink, expect to see a line of Filipinos out the door.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so we decided to go that route.
Sure.
We got Gurney Donuts.
Shout out Gurney Donuts.
Shout out Gurney Donuts and my boy Kevin to hooking us up that weekend. We reached out to some of our family friends at Valerio's. Shout out to Cassell for that one, and they made like special ube treats for the shop that weekend. And I came up with drinks the morning of, just random ube drinks. I had like 4 or 5 specials and just posted on Instagram. And from that point on, it's like we never really had an official open date. But I think whether that was a soft open or not, that's when we opened, because there's lines out the door for that day. But then, even till this day, people come in looking for ube things, which I love, because I think there needs to be more showcase on the Filipino culture, especially, or even like in cafes. It's just like I want to represent Filipino culture, so I'd love to do that through this cafe. But I also don't want this cafe to be known as like, oh, they're the place that makes an ube matcha drink, which is amazing and it looks awesome on Instagram. But I kind of want to challenge not only the community but my staff to keep on coming up with new things and not let people get comfortable on one sort of drink, even though I don't know if that's I'm going to learn probably later on whether that's a good or bad business idea, because that drink probably brings people in the door. Even if it's not on our special menu, people still order it. So it's just like this thing of like,
that's a thing.
Am I doing this wrong?
Not necessarily, because you said you guys are still willing to make it.
Yeah.
And so there's probably some cool appeal of having a secret menu as well for those in the know. But a key tenet of fulfillment, I believe, is a sense of challenge.
Yeah.
And when you're continually challenging your team to come up with new things, I think they want to do their best work, and they're going to stay, and they're going to keep producing for you.
Yeah.
When someone feels complacent and just like plateaued, they're going to want to move on.
Oh, that's true. That's a good way to put it. I think the staff that we have here now, we brought in Emily and Brandon, and they have some coffee experience, and honestly, I shouldn't be behind the espresso machine anyways. Like, what the fuck am I doing back there? I just said that I was never a barista. So not to have these like brains back there is just a wonderful thing. And for me to give them creative freedom to create whatever, like a pumpkin spice latte is a good example. I actually didn't want any pumpkin spice latte. I just like, look, Starbucks is fucking down the street. People could go down there. I don't I don't want to be known as the shop that does that, even though I know it's a thing at every cafe. And this is me just, I'm trying to zag where everyone's zigging, you know? So, but Emily was like, well, come on, we got to have that. I know that every shop has it. So I texted her that day or the day after, and I was like, all right, Em, let's make our own version of a pumpkin spice latte, but like, how can ours be different than everybody else's?
And you
like,
gave her that opportunity?
Oh, absolutely.
That's amazing.
I'm just like, you're doing this. I'm not doing this. And it's like, what are you, what are we going to do to have people say, like, I want to try side projects, pumpkin spice latte. Yeah. And a week later, she came up with what we call the pumpkin pie latte, because it tastes a little bit more like a pumpkin pie. And Brandon, the other barista here, he's vegan, so he came up with his own like caramel drizzle on top. Sorry. Coors Light. And then so they made this this drink, and it's killing it this month. It's so to be able to like let them be able to do that, you know, as they're at their job, like how cool is that?
Very
you
cool.
know? And I give the opportunity to everybody. Yeah. Oh, everybody has that opportunity to bring something to the table, and if it's approved not only by me but by the entire team, let's put it on the menu, you know. And if it doesn't work out that week, I don't have any fear.
How cool is it to have something that you created on the menu? That's very cool.
That's true. We should just name it after them, but no, I don't think they'd want that.
But that's not even, no, I wasn't even going there. But like something that you created, it doesn't have to be by name, but like true. To you, like I came up with that. Like I put the ingredients.
Absolutely. And for this just to be like their part-time job.
Ownership.
Absolutely. 100%. That's what and that was the task at hand, right? Like, how can we make this pumpkin spice ownable? Like, how are we going to own it? And then it's not only do we own it, but she owns it. You know, she came up with this. It's on top of the menu, and they have to make the syrup every week now. But it's such a cool thing to have them behind the bar and to work at the shop. They've brought in their experience and taught me things that I would never learn, you know, and now I get to kind of like focus on my other work and be able to take a step back from the coffee shop, just because like that first month I was like, that's all that I had in my mind was just making this business run. But now I feel like things are smooth now. You know, I'm sure there's going to be bumps along the way, obviously, but man, we're in a really good spot. There's some good momentum going, and my team is happy. I have an awesome team, so shout out to all of them. They're the reason the shop is still going strong.
Can you speak upon your methods for cultivating a good team or seeking out good team members?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's that's actually what I've bought a lot of books on and learning about and teaching myself about right now, is how to become a good leader and manager. I've led teams throughout the way in advertising and stuff like that, but this is a little something different for me. This is not me creative directing a logo or a website, you know. This is me actually, like, they come in here for a paycheck. Like, this is me creating an environment for them to want to be able to come to. So how I kind of cultivate that is I think one of my first interview questions that I ask is what is your side project? You know, like, I don't expect coffee to be your thing. So it's just like, what do you do on the side? What makes you happy? And then when people kind of answer that question, you get a deeper sense of who they are and what they enjoy doing. And then when they kind of reply with their answer, I take it on, just because I've been doing this my entire life, as you just heard. It's just like helping people with their side projects, whether it's like some of my staff, they're into ceramics or painting. Not that I've done that in the past, but I do know people that have done that. Or I do have a business sense, like, how can we turn that into something that could maybe make you money if you want? So I kind of offer my help in that sort of sense, and my personal help, and also this space as a place for them to be able to showcase whatever their side project is, you know. So I just didn't want them, because we've all had those part-time jobs that you just go to for a paycheck, right? And you should go through that. I think that's important. But like, to be able to create a part-time job that you actually want to go to and feel like you're becoming a better person or human being out of it. I'm like, what a cool place or environment that is, you know? So that's what I'm trying to instill in this, the culture of side project and my staff. And I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I'm trying to create.
Is it more, are you like seeking a feeling when you're interviewing these people?
I'm seeking definitely a feeling, but more of like a...
It's less of a checklist and more...
Yeah, more of this like kind of this attitude or mindset of getting things done and executing it,
right,
without anybody's help. This is probably why I don't.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like if you could do it on your own, then I trust you with my shop. You know, like the staff that I have here, they could run the shop without me.
It's hard to teach initiative.
It is hard,
right? You can teach how to make a latte, right? But
I wish I could.
No,
No, just kidding.
But you can.
Yeah.
But to be able to trust someone and let go of your project, of your business with someone, it's a lot. It takes a lot.
It does
to be able to trust someone like that.
Yeah, but I think like good leaders do that, is put trust in their team.
But it's finding the good team members.
This is true. This is true. Absolutely, 100%. And I fortunately found those team members, and then now it's just kind of instilling trust and making sure that they feel like they are my family.
That
to be honest,
included,
yeah, they are a part of this shop, and they're the reason this shop is successful. It's not just because I had an idea, a couple months ago. It's because of them now. So it's like, and I love that. I love learning of the ways of becoming a really good manager and leader. Not that I don't want to be kind of labeled. That is like, to me, like we're just a team trying to get things done here,
right.
And I think and I hope that they feel that way, but it seems like they are. So yeah, we're in a good spot, man. We're in a good spot. But I'm gonna get some water though, Vic. Is that all right? Let's take a pause, or you sit right here and I'll get some water. I'll get you water.
I'm good. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah.
It.
Think of something. I'm getting dehydrated. Breaks that I'm going to take, by the way, so I'm going to apologize in advance.
Well, I don't foresee us to go too much longer, actually.
Oh, okay. So where are we at now?
Well, I wanted to ask what your thoughts are on how you effectively manage your time. When you have so many different things going on at the same time.
Totally.
As far as prioritizing, and do you set boundaries? Like, what do you do to not allow thoughts from one project cross over into another project? Because I just feel like my mind is so scattered.
Man, that's with Reppin, handling that as a side project was really easy, just because everything was just through the computer or me designing on something, and I would be at home. But this opening up a brick and mortar cafe was a total different story. And a lot of people said, like, opening up a cafe is hard work. And then when people say that to me, I don't get intimidated. I'm just like, I mean, I've been working hard my whole life. Let's do this. Let's do this. I got this. And then I open this place up, and I'm like, this is fucking hard work. This is hard work. So I wish I had the answer to that question in terms to, like, managing my time with this cafe. But I will say, like, it's been getting better. But that first month was a struggle, man. It was like, I was stressed out of my mind only because I was behind the bar. I've never felt that stress in a while, and I felt a lot of stress through work, But being able to juggle these many things, not only like my projects, but my family life or with my friends or even my marriage, it was just like, it was hard to kind of like do that. But now with the right staff here that I trust, I'm able to take a step back. And now I'm starting to get in the groove of things on how to manage my time. But my whole thing is that I'm working on. Well, first of all, I get up pretty early.
4:30, right?
4:30. I'm up. I'm there. I'm working. I'm getting stuff out of the way. But that allows me more time to kind of get things done. That's just how it is. And fortunately, I like getting up early. So that's not a struggle for me.
What is it? Is it like a physical thing, like your body just has to get up, or is there a mental like motivation to it?
I think there's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Like my body is kind of used to kind of getting up that early, but also um, I like just the quietness during that time that everybody's sleeping, and I
Yeah.
get to kind of
You feel like you're getting ahead?
yeah, feel like you're getting ahead, but getting into that like deep work moment is hard when the day is already, you're getting distracted by other things.
Yeah.
This limits that distraction at least a couple hours, and that's all you
Absolutely.
need, right? Like within those 3 hours from like 5 to 8, I could get like 8 hours work done within 3. So that's just like at that, that's how my body works. But as what was the second part to the question, Vic? It was like, why else am I? Oh, and I think like what I'm working on now, trying to get better at is having energy, because I don't. Once the cafe closed, I was just burnt. It was only 2 p.m. and I still had more work to do. But I didn't have enough energy to kind of like not only do my work, but also like spend time with my wife,
Absolutely.
or call my friends or something. I just didn't have time for that. So I have and am learning to find different ways. And that's just being, even though I consider myself a pretty healthy person already. It's just finding ways to even be more healthier. I know that sounds like a broken record, like getting enough
Well,
sleep.
duh, I know, but like, yeah,
But
these are
you
things that we
have
forget
to.
about.
It is, and it's super important. And now I start to realize like I need that energy. I need that energy not only for my shop but at my entire life. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah. So if you could describe your ideal work-life balance now, what does
Mhm.
that look like to you?
That's and it's been happening these past 2 weeks. Is getting up at like 4:30 or 5, working on my design work. Maybe there's some repping put into there, and then just busting my ass until around like 10 or 11, and being able to kind of use the rest of the day to patch up some things, or spend time with Anne, or work out. It's just like my ideal day is having a lot of that day having the freedom to do things that make me feel better, rather than always feeling like I'm working.
Yeah,
I just
you're
don't think that's
finding
a healthy
you're
way
making
to.
the time to fill your own cup.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Was that hard initially to just relax and unwind and
Oh, it was,
not
man.
worry about work and
It was, and the thing was, I've been good at time management until I opened up this cafe. Just because this required so much of me. Like I've never done inventory. I got to order milks again? What the fuck? And then what? Order more coffee? Or it's like, what's the specials again? Oh, I got to order more pastries. It's like, and this is me because I don't ask for help. I was just doing everything. It was all on my shoulders. So that's when it started to be like, what am I doing? And that's a part of me because I wanted to learn it.
Yeah.
I think as much as I'm bitching about it now, I needed to do that so I could learn and feel the stresses of everything. So when I do pass it on to someone else, I'll know exactly what they're going through.
Absolutely.
So right now it is finding that I have
Sweet
found
spot?
that. Yeah, I
Nice.
think I found that sweet spot right now. But here's the danger of that sweet spot.
Ooh,
It's like,
complacency.
or it's just like, I got time again.
Uh-oh.
What am I
Oh,
gonna?
another thing.
What am I?
Another
Yeah,
thing.
and that's probably part
Another one.
Well, exactly. A TJ Khaled, another one. It's like, well, what am I gonna do now? But I gotta kind of learn now to kind of enjoy those moments when my brain isn't thinking about ordering more inventory.
Well, my buddy Jake said that your Alico pie is looking real fuego.
Thank you. So that is the next thing on the list. If there's any other side project, it's a pop-up pizza thing called Alico with my cousin.
With a Filipino spin to it.
With a Filipino spin to it.
And is it, I saw like the buttery crust, kind of like Pequod's in a way. So it's like a pan or deep pan style?
So it's actually like a Detroit inspired pie.
But it's going to be circular, right?
And we bring it back to Chicago by putting it back into like a pan pie or a deep dish pan.
Sure.
So we get that circle, but you still get the kind of same, not only crust of a Detroit pie,
like the bite to it.
You know the burnt cheese
Yeah,
on a Detroit
yeah.
style?
Well, I
It's
mean,
like
is that similar to Pequod's?
it is. Theirs is fucking. I mean, it's wonderful. It is wonderful. But there's this. Yeah, I guess you could call them a little bit. They're similar for sure. But the bread, there's a little bit more airiness. There's like a Sicilian-esque quality to
Yeah.
the focaccia-ness to
Oh,
this
okay.
bread.
There's bite to it.
There's bite to it, or a little bit of airiness, because it
Airiness?
looks like
Okay.
it looks like a brick. You know, looks like a
Yeah.
heavy, just like a deep dish.
Right.
But
Detroit,
when you bite
yeah.
into it, it feels very light. That you could probably get another slice. You know, there's something
I
nice
hear
and
ya.
light and airy
hear
about
ya.
it. I don't like getting when I have pizza, as we're just having pizza. I like to eat the whole entire thing.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
yeah.
shout out Professor Pizza, but like one of those squares is like good for me.
Oh, totally.
Out of 4 squares, I'm
Exactly.
like,
Exactly. So, but the thing is, I think at least our pop up will be a slice only type thing.
Oh,
So,
okay.
we'll see. We're still figuring that out. We'll probably release a menu like on Monday or Tuesday night, and then you'll be able to pick up at the shop on a Friday night. But that's the next side project. We got a pizza oven lined up, and shout out to Derek from Polly G's to helping us
Really?
pick out that oven. Yeah.
Professor Pizza did some time there too.
Yeah, Derek's it's a great example of just like someone who's just an open book that you could just kind of call up and ask questions. He's and to be able to even talk to him on the phone or text him or something,
Really?
it's just like, what? Why is he even giving me advice? Some guy who he's just trying learning how to make it. But it's been a fun journey, and excited to share that part at least. And this is for, as I said, like my cousin Ryan wants to make this. This is his side project that I just want to help and make happen, and I'm gonna be a part of it for as long as I can. But I'm hoping that he's gonna take this to new heights. So we'll see.
Do you ever feel like you're spread too thin?
I
know you
yeah,
you manage your
totally.
time really well.
Yeah, man.
But-
But now, there's something about this shop that prior to this shop, I've always kind of, as I mentioned, like my family and friends used me as that kind of person to kind of relay their ideas on, right? And like if they had a side project idea, they would bring it to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would naturally want to help. But now it's not just my family and friends. This shop is all about showcasing the community side projects. So now my inbox is full of other people's side projects,
Wow.
just not my family and friends. So now it's kind of like, one, I'm learning how to say no because I don't say that word enough. But at the same time, it's like that's what the shop is about, right? It's helping give a voice to people who don't have a voice and showcase what they're working on the side.
Can't make it to
know?
Shark Tank. We're gonna go to side project.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Please do. I got you. So that's what it is. So now I'm kind of feeling like
Learning to say no.
learning to say no because I do feel like I'm a little spread too thin at the moment. But I'm not too worried about that because I know I'll bounce back from that. Just me kind of figuring things out now. It's just a new transition in this point of life.
I wonder what your answer is going to be. I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be. But what are your thoughts on not ever feeling satisfied? Or do you feel satisfied with not arriving at a certain at a destination? Because I know you seem like you're someone just that thrives in the process.
Totally.
But you don't want to settle.
Yeah.
So you're always looking for that next thing.
Yeah, I maybe because I don't know what satisfied means when it comes to it's like say this. When am I ever going to say that this business is, or this cafe, for example, is successful? When am I going to say is when it was Reppin known as a successful business? It was just like it's doing well, and I love learning, as you said, the process of this entire journey that it's going through, and I guess there's just I've never reached an end yet, or this point where
You've just added more projects.
I just added more stress to my life. But yeah, I guess never being satisfied is probably, whether that's a problem or not, I'm just probably not. I just keep on going to learn the things. And it sounds bad to say that you're never satisfied, but I enjoy the process, as you say. You know, I enjoy learning and being curious and going through the ups and downs of opening a business. It's just, I love it. I love this cafe. I love what we've created here, and I'm just looking forward to what else it brings, in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
What is last thing
Mhm.
is a good piece of advice you would start to or say to people that want to hashtag start something?
Oh, because my answer was gonna be start something, but now you already answered it. Okay. My first piece of advice to start something is really and this sounds like a Nike thing, to really just do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one thing that separates you from someone who is who you consider as successful and someone who isn't successful is like these people just went out there and did it. You know, you're just, I mean, that's really, in my opinion, that's the difference. I think that might be the sickness of mine. When I see other people do it, and if I could see them do it, I'm like, well, then I could do it, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just go out there and do it. I don't know where that confidence comes from, but I just don't have this fear of like, oh, well, you know, they went to school for this and they've had this experience. I don't have that fear.
So
Yeah.
so people, what you think people just make excuses for themselves?
I
Because
don't
we
know.
all have a
True.
different start point,
That's
right?
true.
Starting
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
And we all, especially during these COVID times, during these protests and looting and people justifying the looting,
Totally.
it's just like they keep telling themselves a narrative that they are disenfranchised and are at a disadvantage. And but on the
Mhm.
other side of the coin, there are groups and entities that are trying to help these disadvantaged communities come up.
Mhm.
And I wonder where the disconnect is of like not being aware of
Mm.
people lending a hand.
Totally.
And I think society does acknowledge that we all have different starting points and we all want to help each other out, but I think it's easier to tell yourself like I'm just disadvantaged, or like no one gives a shit about me.
Sure.
I'm never going to make it in life,
Yeah.
so I'm just
Yeah.
going to burn the world down.
Yeah, I think for these things that I start, I don't think of them. Maybe there's a part of things when people start something, they already kind of jump to this point where it's like incredibly successful, sold over the world, franchised everywhere. Where I'd never think
Where it's
that way.
overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I start like I start small. Side project. A lot of people are like, "When's the next one popping up?" I'm like, I'm not gonna open up a next one. You know, this is good. You know, I want to do whatever we do here. I want to do it right.
Yeah.
In this small shop, I'm not branching out. So I'm starting small.
So the point isn't to make money. The point
Exactly.
is to do it really well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, people want to make the money, but my whole thing is like, don't put the pressure of like becoming this mega
Sure.
business. Just kind of start off small, learn throughout the way, get a handle of things, and then move on bigger. And then you start to kind of like, then it's less intimidating to start something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you start to like think super big, that's when it's like you just get overwhelmed about the amount of things that you have to do to make that happen. But if you just want to start small and say that you're going to open up a Ube weekend or some shit during the weekend, and then just do it,
It's a little
and
more
then look what
attainable.
happens. Yo, yeah.
It's just it's very cool hearing it, especially from someone that had no background in the coffee industry, and you were able to break it down into smaller pieces and overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just asking the right questions and bringing the right people around you to learn and be willing to learn and know that and that my staff knows I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to ask you to kind of help me answer those questions. But yeah, it's just being curious, which is why I'm glad that you're here, and that's what your podcast is all about. It's just I'm naturally a curious person, and that's, I think, the main reason why I am where I am today, and the businesses that I've launched and will hopefully launch in the future, just because I'm just curious about how things work.
Yeah.
And if you could make a little bit of money on that, what a
Why
fun
not?
life to live. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like with these side projects, people are trying to find a way to utilize their skill set, be of service to the world, as well as find some way to make some cheddar.
Totally. Absolutely. And I see where how you could get overwhelmed by trying to check all those boxes,
Yeah.
right? But just starting off small and maybe starting at a point at like, maybe it's just something that makes you happy, that makes you feel
whether it's like learning how to make a latte.
Yeah, that, or it's just like you don't have a boss. This is just something that you're doing on the side for yourself.
How liberating is that?
Yeah, absolutely. What a wonderful thing. So at least that's, if more than anything, you're making yourself happy and working on something that you want to be doing, that's enough reason to do it on its own.
Yeah. If you're complaining about your full-time job, but you're not putting in the hours on your off time, then what are you really doing?
Agreed. 100% agree to that.
That's all I had, Francis.
Dude, thank you so much.
It was a pretty wonderful episode.
Well, is it good? Is it good? Did we talk? Is this, what is it, 10 minutes that we talked?
No, it was about an hour and a half, buddy.
I'll take it.
It was an hour and a half.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you.
Where can people find you?
You could find me on Instagram is probably where I do a lot of my posting, but at francis.almeda. And then the coffee shop is at sideproject.coffee, and then at Reppins for a Reppin. Or you could just find me at the coffee shop, 5139 North Damon.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring you some stivers next. So when you do the pizza, I'll bring you stivers.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll feature them. I can't wait. Thank you. And then can't wait for you to host your next podcast over here. Whatever, man. Whoever the person is, this is your side thing. You got a space now, so
what?
You might as well use it. Look at the space. You got these. What else am I using this for, man?
Are you serious?
You should. Why not?
Shit.
How cool would that be?
It'd be very cool.
Yeah, whenever you want it.
Okay, we'll talk.
I mean, we're closed after 2, so no parties after 10. Whatever.
Okay, all right, we'll talk. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious. #start something.
I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.